plans on remaining with the Chicago Sky after Rocky in the 2025. You may be like, Rocky, question mark? Yeah, you don't remember? She threw all of her teammates under the bus and then ran the bus over them. In that interview that came out, I think it was the Chicago Sun-Times.
Let us start with something that needs to be said clearly. Without noise, without agendas, and without pretending this is just internet drama. This situation did not begin with an award. It began with priorities. Angel Reese has built a powerful brand. That part is undeniable. The Me Bounce slogan caught on instantly. Fans repeated it. Media amplified it. Rebounds became identity. Identity became marketing. Marketing became attention. And attention slowly started to matter more than the actual game being played on the court at first. That balance worked. Rebounds turned into headlines. Headlines turned into interviews. Interviews turned into influence. But somewhere along the way, BASKETBALL stopped being the foundation and became the accessory. That is where things quietly went wrong. When a player spends more time shaping narratives than building chemistry, organizations notice. When interviews feel more like evaluations of teammates than reflections on self-improvement, front offices pay attention. When branding begins to outweigh accountability, patience starts to thin. This is not about jealousy. It is not about disliking confidence. It is about the unspoken rule of professional sports. No matter how loud your brand becomes, the team always expects commitment first. In Chicago, it's watching. They watched interviews where teammates were indirectly blamed. They watched body language on the bench. They watched availability fluctuate. They watched frustration spill into public spaces instead of private conversations. All while trying to build a stable culture around a young roster that needed unity, not tension. Here's the hard truth. Organizations do not push back publicly. They respond quietly. They document. They evaluate. And when the moment comes, they send a message without saying a word. That moment came when the Sky announced their Player of the Year, because sometimes the loudest statement is not what you say. It is who you choose. And Angel Reese was not that choice. When the Chicago Sky announced their Player of the Year, it did not come with drama, explanation, or commentary. It did not need to. The name alone did all the talking. Camila Cardoso. In that moment, the organization drew a line without ever saying it out loud. This was not just an award. It was an evaluation, a verdict, a reflection of what the franchise values when everything else is stripped away. While narratives swirled around branding, visibility, and personality, the front office looked at something far less glamorous: availability, consistency, impact. Cardoso played 40 games. She showed up night after night. No mystery. No speculation. No questions about whether she would be there. When the ball went up, that matters more than fans realize. Basketball organizations are built on trust. Coaches need to know who they can game plan around. Teammates need to know who will be beside them in the huddle. Front offices need to know who anchors the culture when things go wrong. Cardoso checked every one of those boxes quietly. 15 Player of the Game honors, 6 Player of the Week awards, 2 Player of the Month recognitions. These are not marketing metrics. They are internal validations of contribution. Proof that production was not accidental. Proof that effort did not fluctuate with mood or momentum. And then there's the stat that changed everything. 40 games played. Compare that to 30. Availability is not a footnote. It is the foundation. You cannot lead from the training table. You cannot build chemistry from the sidelines. And you cannot demand accountability while being unpredictable yourself. The timing of the announcement made it even louder. It landed right after public comments that questioned roster quality. Right after teammates felt exposed. Right after chemistry was already fragile. This was the Sky saying, without hostility, without emotion, who they trust, not who trends, not who sells, who shows up. That distinction changes everything. There is a difference between wanting a better team and telling the world your current one is not good enough. That difference lives in tone, timing, and respect. And in Chicago, that line was crossed publicly. Angel Reese did not raise concerns behind closed doors. She did not wait for off-season meetings. She did not frame frustration as collective responsibility. Instead, she went to the media and spoke as if she were evaluating the roster from above it. That is where the damage. Imagine being one of those players. You have spent years fighting for a place in this league. You show up early. You grind through losses. You absorb criticism quietly. And then you open your phone and see your teammate implying you are the reason the team is falling short. That does not motivate. It fractures. The locker room is sacred in professional sports. It is where trust is built, where mistakes are owned, where accountability happens without cameras. Once those conversations move to headlines, chemistry starts to rot from the inside. Veterans noticed immediately. Courtney Vandersloot, a proven champion with multiple rings and all-star selections, found herself forced to defend her value publicly. That should never happen. When a veteran has to remind people of her resume because of comments from a teammate, leadership has already failed somewhere, and the response mattered. Vandersloot did not fire back emotionally. She did not attack. She simply stated she was healthy, prepared, and committed. In one calm moment, she demonstrated the exact contrast the organization would later reward. Other players saw it too. Free agents saw it. Agents saw it. Around the league, the message was received clearly. Chicago looked unstable, not because of losing, but because of internal conflict. Players do not run toward teams where stars publicly assign blame. They avoid them. Once that perception spreads, rebuilding becomes harder. Recruiting becomes awkward. And front offices start asking questions they never wanted to ask about their supposed cornerstone. Because leadership is not about demanding excellence, it is about earning belief. And once belief cracks, no amount of branding can hold it together. If leadership fractures a locker room, availability determines whether a team can survive it. And for Chicago, availability became the unspoken problem no one wanted to address out loud. Angel Reese's absence did not happen once. It stretched. It lingered. It became confusing. Day-to-day turned into week-to-week. Explanations stayed vague. Timelines never arrived. And slowly, uncertainty became the team's constant companion. Coaches could not plan rotations. Teammates did not know who would be in the lineup. Practices lacked continuity. Every game felt like a reset instead of a step forward. That chaos adds up. In professional basketball, injuries happen. Everyone understands that. What breaks trust is silence. When players disappear without clarity, when updates feel guarded, when effort off the court does not match expectation on it, doubt fills the gaps. Then the optics made it worse. While the Sky were fighting to stay relevant, Reese appeared elsewhere promoting her sneaker launch. Cameras followed. Social media lit up. And fans started asking the question teams hate most. If she can travel for branding, why can she not sit with her team? Perception matters, whether it is fair or not. Teammates noticed. Veterans noticed. The front office noticed. Commitment is not measured only in minutes played. It is measured in presence, in visibility, in choosing the team even when you cannot contribute on the floor. Meanwhile, other stars across the league showed a different model. Injured, yet present. Limited, yet engaged. Loud supporters from the bench instead of silent absences. That contrast sharpened everything. By the time the Sky used the phrase, "conduct detrimental to the team," the damage was already done. That label is not handed out lightly. It signals a breakdown in professional expectations. Not just frustration. Trust does not collapse in one moment. It erodes quietly, and by the time Chicago needed reliability most, it was already gone at some point. Narratives collapse under data. Branding fades. Emotion cools. And what remains are numbers that tell the story no one wants to hear. For the Chicago Sky. That moment arrived when they looked at how the team actually performed. Without Angel Reese on the floor, the offense moved differently. Ball movement improved. Spacing looked cleaner. Decisions came faster. Possessions felt intentional instead of forced. It was subtle, but undeniable. And then there were the turnovers. Reese led the league in turnovers, despite missing significant time. That is not a nitpick. That is a warning sign. When one player gives the ball away at that rate, it does not just hurt her stat line. It collapses momentum. It deflates teammates. It fuels opponent runs. 1 out of every 5 shots she attempted near the basket was blocked. Efficiency struggled. Defenses learned her tendencies. And instead of adjusting quietly, frustration spilled outward. Basketball punishes predictability. The Sky were not better because Reese was absent. They were better because structure returned. Roles stabilized. Players trusted the next pass, and that reality terrified the organization because it raised a question no franchise wants to ask about its supposed star. Are we better when she is not here? That question changes everything. It reframes conversations. It reframes contracts. It reframes future plans. Suddenly, loyalty feels optional. Development feels conditional. And patience wears thin. Meanwhile, Camila Cardoso kept producing without drama. She defended. She rebounded. She finished. She stayed available. She did not demand touches. She did not dominate headlines. She dominated assignments. That is the kind of player coaches trust with winning basketball. Stats are not opinions. They are receipts. And once the numbers aligned with the eye test, Chicago no longer had to guess. They already knew who they were building around. When tension enters a locker room, it rarely announces itself loudly. It shows up in smaller ways. Eye contact disappears. Conversations shorten. Trust thins out. Inside Chicago's locker room, something shifted as the season progressed. Veteran players began adjusting their games, not to win, but to accommodate. Offensive sets bent around one personality. Defensive responsibilities quietly shifted to cover mistakes. That kind of imbalance wears on a team fast. Basketball players feel fairness instantly. They know who is held accountable and who is not. And when one player receives constant grace while others absorb consequences, resentment grows. Coaches noticed it first. Practice intensity dipped. Communication broke down in late-game moments. When pressure hit, players hesitated instead of reacting. That hesitation costs games. Angel Reese was not the only factor, but she became the focal point. Her emotions ran hot. Body language turned visible. Missed calls led to frustration. Missed shots led to gestures. Teammates began playing tight, worried about reactions instead of reads. Winning teams function on shared sacrifice. Losing teams fracture under individual gravity. Meanwhile, players like Cardoso and Mabre leaned into clarity. They executed roles. They stayed composed. They focused on assignments, not attention. That contrast mattered by mid-season. Chicago's internal identity was no longer unified. It was split between basketball and branding, between development and visibility. And when a team loses its shared direction, it does not matter how popular one player is. Chemistry always tells the truth eventually. At first, the coverage protected the image. Every struggle had a framing. Every criticism came with an excuse. Growing pains. Rookie adjustment. Learning curve. But media cycles are ruthless. As the losses stacked up, tone changed. Analysts began asking harder questions. Clips circulated showing missed rotations and forced shots. The conversation shifted from hype to impact. And Angel Reese became a lightning rod. Not because she failed, but because expectations were set impossibly high. When reality did not match the narrative, backlash followed. Chicago found itself trapped. Defend Reese publicly and alienate fans who watch the games closely. Distance themselves and risk angering a powerful media base. Neither option was clean. Sponsors started paying attention. Not to highlights, but to perception volatility. Brands like stability. They like predictability. Controversy complicates that. Meanwhile, opposing teams stopped treating Reese like a future star. They scouted her tendencies. They baited her into turnovers. They attacked her defensively, and suddenly, the league adjusted faster than the story did. Media narratives can elevate a player, but they can also trap them. Once the story breaks, recovery becomes harder than the rise. Chicago learned that lesson in real time, even if the season resets. Some damage lingers. Fans are not just emotional. They are observant, and many noticed the disconnect between what they were told and what they saw. Ticket interest softened. Online engagement shifted from excitement to debate. Sponsors watched closely, not panicked, but cautious. Momentum is fragile in a league still fighting for relevance. When fans feel honesty slipping, they disengage. And disengagement is the most dangerous outcome possible. This was not just about wins and losses. It became a trust issue. Were fans being asked to believe something that was not happening on the court? Chicago now faces a long rebuild of credibility. Not just with opponents, but with its own audience. Trust is slow to build and fast to lose. And once doubt enters, every decision gets questioned. Now imagine being a rookie caught inside all of this, Angel. Reese arrived with pressure few players experience. Expectations were massive. Every move scrutinized. Every mistake magnified. That kind of weight crushes development. Instead of learning quietly, she was forced to perform loudly. Instead of adjusting, she defended narratives. Other rookies watched closely. Caitlin Clark, Cardoso, Brink, each navigating fame, competition, and league politics at once. They did not start this environment. They inherited it, and now they are expected to carry the league forward while standing in the middle of its growing pains. That is not fair, but it is reality. So here is the question Chicago and the league must answer. Was the narrative worth the cost? Was forcing a star identity before the foundation was ready the right move? From the fans' perspective, the answer feels clear. Let players grow. Let roles solidify. Let winning come before branding. Because once trust cracks, it takes years to repair. What happens next will define more than one career. It will define how this league chooses substance over story, or fails to.
Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into Hollywood's hidden history.